and I almost had it all back. Like I'm six figures deep at this point. And I remember I was maybe £3,000 or £4,000, $3,000 or $4,000, sorry, Australian dollars short of getting everything back. And I remember sitting there, it's about 4 o'clock in the morning at this point, and I remember saying to myself, wow, you've nearly got all this back. Once you've got it all back, you can fix everything. You can pay it all back. And there was a voice in the back of my head that just went, you won't stop. And I just buried that voice. I was just like, nah, I didn't listen to that voice. But I remember it was my own voice saying to me, you won't stop. I just ignored it. I was like, I know what I'm doing. So that was the Friday night, Saturday morning, 4 a.m. By the Monday, I'd lost it all.
Hey everyone, welcome to the podcast today. Today's a bit different than normal, and I think it's quite important because I've got my friend Daniel with me, and he's just recently started his own YouTube channel, and he's sharing his own journey into gambling addiction, overcoming it, and personal development. So I thought it's quite a powerful message that even if a couple of people get something from it, then it's worth us sitting down for an hour and having a talk. So I've got no questions, and a lot of the stuff I don't know. So I'm actually going to, this is my honest reaction to this. So I've known Danny for nearly 20 years, but some of this stuff is extremely personal. So we'll dig into it just for the benefit of anybody listening. So I've got no place to start. So Danny, do you want to introduce yourself and just start at the beginning, and we'll see how it goes?
Yeah, and just first of all, thank you so much. Hello, everyone. I'm Daniel. Thanks for having me on. Just I feel absolutely privileged just to be even asked to come on here. Just the channel that you've built up, the years of hard work you've put into it, and the following you've gathered. And I'm completely new to YouTube. I'm trying to get my message out there now for what we're going to talk about today. But it's just a privilege to be on here and to be asked to come on, mate. So really appreciate it. So basically, I struggled with a gambling addiction for over 20 years. And then 3 years ago, I finally got on top of it, and I've been doing work each and every day since then to improve my life and so to get my life back together. And I just wanna basically help someone not have to go through the 20 years of struggle that I went through. If my message just hits home with one person and helps them get on top of this addiction before it takes over their life, then my mission is fully achieved. But yeah, I'll go back to the very beginning. So my gambling started when I was very young. I was in my early teens, and whenever I do reflect back, there's always like two things that I go back to that stand out in my mind that I've spoke to gambling counselors about, and they played a big part in why I became addicted to gambling. So as I've said, my name's Daniel. One of my family members is called Georgie, and there was a horse called Chief Dan George. And Tony McCoy would often be on it. I was a very well-known jockey. And basically me and all my family members always used to bet on it just for the namesake. Basically it was me and a close family member's name. And I must have been 12, 13, 14, I don't know, but we'd all had a bet on it. I remember being in my mum's living room, me, my brother, my mum, my sister, my dad, and a few other family members, and we were watching this race, and he had gone miles behind. Like the horse looked like it was finished. It was right at the back of the pack. And I actually found out afterwards the odds on Betfair, the in-running odds, actually went out to 999 to 1. That's how far back it was. It looked like it just had no chance. And somehow Tony McCoy got it through, brought it back to life, and it flew home. And just like that euphoric feeling. Like I can't even remember how much I had. And I was only early teens, so I probably didn't even win that much. But it was just the fact the whole family, like we were out, we were dead and buried, and it just come back, and the whole family at one end, and just that all the family being together, like everyone jumping up, everyone being so happy, so ecstatic, like that feeling of euphoria was just spread amongst us all. And yeah, that was like the foundation for me. I've always put it back to that, just that feeling. It wasn't even so much about the money. It was just like all my family being together as one and all experiencing that. So I always think that's where it started. That was where the very first thing happened. And then probably within the next 12 months, I went round to my local betting shop. I must have been with my dad or something to be able to put the football accumulator on. I was only 14, maybe 15. And I picked 4 teams and put £1 on it. And I remember watching Gillette Soccer Saturday, watching the results come in. And two of those games, I'd bet on a draw. And they were like the two games were either what the home team was winning or the away team was winning. It was basically, there was one goal in it. And in the 90th minute, one of the teams equalised. So three of my four teams were all up at that point. But the other one that I needed the draw on was still 2-1, I think it was. It was Wolves versus Coventry. I still remember it, over 20 years ago. And it was about a 93rd minute equaliser. And again, just that feeling of euphoria, like it came in the last minute. And I think I won, I think it was £140, something like that. But I was 14 or 15 years old. So that, like, I'd never seen that much money in my life. So that was just like an incredible feeling again. That was more of an isolated one. Like, I was the only person experiencing that. Like the first one I told you about, that was all my family experiencing it. That was the joy of me being happy and everyone around me being happy. But then this one was more of an isolated one where it was just me.
So your early memories then are basically success with it, like get time and it caused, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Like they say, beginner's luck. I call it beginner's unluck, because it's just like that's what got me started. That's what got me hooked, basically. That moment of isolation where I won all that money, and then actually having that money in my hand, like £140 at that age, I was just like, wow, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna make a living
a lot of money. That's a lot of money when you're 14, isn't it? So I do kind of get it, because I know in Liverpool we have the Grand National, so I do understand. Like, we used to sit round and watch as a family the races. It's quite a big cultural thing in Liverpool. I guess we both come from Liverpool, and it's a big football city as well. So you're Everton, I'm Liverpool, watching it with your family, and I guess it kind of does have a culture of betting as well associated with these things, because when you go to match, the betting stalls there, it's not just betting on a goal scorer, like you said, it's betting on a draw. You know, like you look forward to a draw, but you made something exciting out of nothing. So I can see why at a young age you were excited.
Definitely the family elements were like, it's acceptable, because like obviously my family weren't letting me bet on that horse thinking he's going to be hooked on gambling for the next 20 years. That was an inclusive moment that the whole family could feel like it was a bit of harmless fun, which most people can keep it as harmless fun, but just for certain people like myself, it gets out of control. The very first time, like, I remembered, like, wow, this is a problem. I think I was 17, and I'd been able to manipulate an online betting company that I had an account with them, even though I was only 17. I can't remember how, but I didn't have to prove my age. Basically, I was depositing money despite being under 18. And I remember one night I asked my mum just before she was going to bed. I said, "Can I use your card, and can I put £10 into my account, please? I just want to play some poker." And again, my mum, just thinking it was a bit of harmless fun, allowed me, give me her card, and she went off to bed. And I put the £10 in to play poker. And by the time she woke up the next morning, I had deposited something like £1,700, just chasing my losses. Just like, I'd lost that £10. I'll put another £10. I'll put another I'll put £100 in. I'll put it, and like the next morning, I was like, oh, like I'm in big trouble here. Like once I'd gone past a certain amount, it was just like, there's no going back now. I need to win this money back. I can't tell my mum I've wasted £100. I put another 100 in, and then I can't tell I've wasted 200, and it was just chasing my tail. It's called chasing your losses. And by the morning, I was like devastated. I didn't know what to do, and I couldn't face up to it. I couldn't tell my mum. And then a few days later, I was sat on the couch, and she's come down to, I remember the internet company was called FreeServe. And she said to me, I've got a letter from FreeServe saying that they haven't been able to take their money out of the account this month. Do you know anything about it? And I said to Mum, I was like, "Listen, sit down, I've got something to tell you." And I told her what I did. And I remember, like, she was just gobsmacked. Like, my mum was never one for discipline. I was never like grounded or anything like that growing up.
Yeah.
And she was just like gobsmacked, and she just walked out the room. And like, I was sat on that couch like, wow, I need to stop this now. This is out of hand. Like, I can't ever do that again. I've gambled with someone else's money. That was the first ever time I had used someone else's money to gamble with. And I was like, this is becoming a problem now. I need to stop this. But
No.
it didn't stop. No.
I can imagine. Like, so I guess you probably started off putting like small £5, £10 bets, and then when it got to like minus 200, you just kind of went like panicked, I guess.
That's it. Like, yeah, I couldn't start. I couldn't face up to it. I need to win this money back. Like, she'll forgive me if I put the money back. That was my mentality. When of course she'd be distraught either way at the fact that his 17-year-old son had done this. And yeah, unfortunately, the more you invest in gambling, the more you lose, the more you feel like you're due a win. So the more invincible you feel, and then yeah, I'll just put another 500. I'll get it back. But unfortunately, it never works out.
So what happened after that then? So you sat down, you told your mum this. How did that progress to more gambling?
It never really got
Experience.
addressed. Like my mum, bless her, I love her. Like she is my world. But like I say, she was never one for discipline. So it was never I was never like sat down and told her. So it was sort of like, as the week's gone on, it's buried into the background. It's suppressed. It's forgotten about. And the gambling continued. I think looking back now, it was like, right, I need to get that money back. I'm in debt to gambling now. I need to win that money back. And then once I'm ahead, then it was always like, once I get to, I did a video about destination addiction. It's like, once I get to this amount, then I'll stop. Once I get here, I'll stop. And that was always the way, but it never stopped. I remember when I turned 18, the day I turned 18, I took out 3 credit cards, like instantly. The day I turned 18, I was allowed to go to casinos then because I was 18, whereas I could only do it online before that because I had like this secret account. Once I turned 18, I took 3 credit cards out, and I always remember there was a credit card called Mint, and it wasn't a it had a curved edge. It was sort of like the shape of my nose on the edge of the card. I always remember that. But yeah, I took 3 credit cards out on my 18th birthday, and within a day or two, they were all maxed out. It was just like it was spiraling out of control, and it was always, once I get to this, once I get it back, I'll stop. Once I get it back, I'll stop. But
Did you find the casinos more exciting than online, or was it not really been about that?
I think the casinos were more exciting, yeah, because I think it was about the reputation that I had in the casino. Because I'm in there, I'm throwing hundreds of pounds down on one spin of roulette, and people are looking at me like, wow.
Yeah.
Like I remember one guy just like drunk next to me, and he's just like, wow, what do you do? Like you can just waste money like that. And that made me feel like a millionaire. It made me feel on top of the world. Like, oh, everyone thinks I'm this big guy. When in reality, it probably wasn't even my money I was betting with, and I'd be up to my death in eyeballs with credit cards and whatnot because of how much I was gambling. But that I was allowed to escape into that dream world where everyone thinks I'm a big shot. Everyone thinks I'm this guy. And at the same time, simultaneously, once I win all this money, I will actually be that big guy that they all think I am. And I will have all this money behind me. I can buy all these fast cars and nice houses. But it was just always, it's called the dream world of the compulsive gambler. It's like, it never stopped. The first time I won life-changing money, I was actually 19 years old. And it was back online, and I was playing roulette on Betfair, and I was doing £1,000 spins on basically red or black, and I had like a really good run, and I actually got up to £20,000. Like 19 years old, I had £20,000 in my account, and I'm like, my girlfriend at the time, I'm thinking of the cruise that I'm going to take her on, I'm thinking of the car I'm going to buy. I'm like, this is me. So because I'd had that account from when I was under 18, to withdraw the amount, I had to go through like PayPal. I had to go through a weird way. So it took a couple of days to get the money out. But I was able to withdraw it instantly, but then it took a couple of days before I knew it was on my account. And I remember it was a Thursday morning. Every morning I was waking up, refresh my balance. Oh, it's not there yet. This Thursday morning, I looked about 10 a.m. and £20,000 was in my bank account, and I was like, this is me. I am made now. And I was in work at 2 p.m. that day. I worked in the gym at the time, and my shift started at 2 p.m. And I was like, you know what? I've got a few hours to kill. I'll see if my luck's in. I'll have a little look on Betfair, see what's going on. By the time I went to work at 2 p.m. that day, out of that £20,000, I had £300 left, and I was like a zombie. It was just like, from the euphoria of like, my life is going to turn around now. They've got all the, I was on £4.53 an hour in the gym. I was getting £4.53 an hour. I had £20,000, like more than a year's wage there. And within 3 hours, it was gone. And again, it was just like how is this happening? So I spoke about it before. Like, once I get to this amount, I'll stop. Like, I won £20,000. That should be like, that's enough to stop. but I'd just move the goalposts. I'd be like, this is what £20,000 feels like. What does £100,000? What does 150 for that? And there was no amount that now, 20 years later, I can look back and say there was no amount I would have stopped that. But while I was tied up in the addiction, I was constantly following that. Once I get to here, I'll stop. Once I've won all this back, I'll stop. But like I say, it never stopped.
I mean, like once you're putting £1,000 to spin on and you've got that excitement, what £10 to spin? I guess it's like, there's no point doing it, is there?
Exactly.
Or I guess I had the feeling that you probably had.
While I was doing it, I was always convinced it was about the money. Like I say, once I get to this amount, I'll stop. But now in hindsight, I can see it. It was just the thrill of the bet. Like I've researched studies and looked at papers and stuff since, and like a compulsive gambler's brain lights up just as much while that wheel is spinning around the roulette wheel. While the ball is spinning around the roulette wheel, lights up just as much as as you're waiting for the outcome, like the anticipation of the bet, as the outcome, whether it's win or loss. The anticipation is just as exciting, it's just as thrilling as winning the money or losing the money. And I was never able to see that while I was doing it. Only afterwards that helped me understand why I couldn't stop, why I kept going back again, why I was obsessed with it, why every minute of every day was just thinking like, where's the next bet going to be? Where am I going to get the next bit of money from?
I mean, it's similar to I don't know. I'm thinking about like Tyson Fury. I remember he had the pursuit. Remember when he was going for the world championship, and then I think when he won the world championship, I think he said that's when I don't know if it was depression or I don't know. I can't remember what he said he went through, but it's almost like once he achieved the goal, there was nothing next. So then he kind of dropped off, and then he had to get back into the sport. To then like the journey, like you said, is much more exciting than the actual outcome. That's just like
it is. It's not about the destination. It's enjoying the journey along the way. And just like looking back now, I can see every negative thing that happened in my life. I'd go and gamble to escape that. Like I just wasn't equipped to deal with negative emotions like grief, boredom, loneliness, loss. Any of those things happened, I'd go and gamble. Like I failed my driving test. I went to gamble. My granddad passed away. I went to gamble. Like any excuse, anything that I wasn't feeling good about myself, gambling was just the escape. Gambling was the quick, I can go and feel amazing without accepting the fact that I'm only going to feel good for that 10 minutes, that 30 minutes, that hour that I'm doing it. And then I'm going to feel 10 times worse because of the financial damage I've done, because of the lies I've told again. And it was just a constant cycle. Like it took over my life at this point. Like I was working in the gym every first hour of my shift. It would just be, I'd have the newspapers out. I'd be picking my horses out for the day. And then it was always, I'll pick this horse. This is the one I'm going to go on. But then when that would lose, I'd then chase and chase and chase until all my money was gone. And whatever other money I could get hold of would be gone. The scary thing about it was that this addiction, I was able to appear from the outside like a completely functioning adult. Like it's not like an alcohol addiction or a drug addiction where people can start to like see the deterioration in your health. Like the stress it caused me was unbelievable. I was able to sort of keep that buried deep down, and from the outside looking in, everyone just thought I was a completely normal person. Where I was,
I think I knew you. I think I met you when you were like, I think you were a year older than me. So I think when I went to college, I was like 17, 18. So I probably knew you during this time. I don't really remember it all being about gambling. I do remember you being like happy and I guess like you say masking it kind of.
Yeah, there was that.
Like not appearing, yeah.
That's what I say. It's like it's the scariest addiction for me because you can hide it so well without outside world seeing it, but it's just so isolating. Like the suicide rates for a gambling addict are just so much higher than other addictions because of how isolating it is, how alone you feel because nobody knows what you're doing. And I'm not like asking people to get the violin out here. It's my choice that I'm choosing to keep that up, keep that to myself. I'm choosing not to tell anyone because I don't want anyone to know what I'm doing. I want to keep going doing this until I get myself out of this mess, which the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. That's what I was doing for 20 years. It was just like I was never able to accept I cannot control this. There's no amount that I'll stop it. There's nothing.
So what happened after this? after you lost 20 grand? Did it just keep, how do you keep going? You just keep getting loans out and
Like,
progress
so
there.
because I had credit cards from 18 years old, my credit score was never good. There was one dodgy company that I actually found in Liverpool city centre that I was able to get. I was able to get a loan off. Pardon the stereotype. So this was 15 years ago or so. So technology wasn't what it is now. I was able to print off, or not print off. I was able to print screen a load of my bank statements, take them into Paint, and just hide the betting, withdrawals, basically hiding the damage that the betting companies were doing to my bank. And then I took them in, and they believed it. They fell for it, and they gave me a loan. Instantly gambled that loan away. That was gone within, I can't remember, but it wouldn't have been long. It would have been days at best, if not a week. And then they came knocking at my mum and dad's house for they literally sent two of their workers around, because I was just ignoring their calls, ignoring their emails, ignoring their messages, because I couldn't pay them back. I didn't have money. Every cent I got, every pound I got was going straight back to gambling, just trying to dig myself out of this hole. And I remember they come to the front door, they knocked at the front door, and my dad was like, "What's this?" And that was like one of the first times I had to get my parents to sort of bail me out. I had to get money off my family to pay this loan back, and then sort of pay them back. But yeah, I remember I tried it again with a different loan company. I did the same thing where I was hiding. I used the same modified statements that I'd done with this one. But by this point, they were like over 6 months out of date. And I remember I'm in the office with the girl. I've shown her the statements, the modified statements, and she's like, they're past they're over 6 months old. We can't use these. I need to log on with you now and get some like current up to date statements. So I had to do it in front of her, and she could see all the betting company just all over my deposits, my withdrawals. And she was just like, I'm not going to be able to give you a loan looking at this. And I couldn't deal with negative emotions. I couldn't deal with confrontation. I just went, okay, just one sec, just let me go to the toilet and I'll be right. And I ran out of the building, and I never went, because again, only in hindsight looking back, I was unable to sort of deal with life on life's terms. I couldn't deal with confrontation. I couldn't deal with making like people having uncomfortable conversations with people. I just run away and hide behind the gambling type of thing.
So why did you keep doing it? Did you keep trying to recover what you'd lost? Was that kind of like...
That's what I always told myself as I was doing it. I always said, once I get all, I'll stop.
Yeah.
But I remember in a gambling counseling session that I did, they put a graph up on the screen for me, and it basically started up the top where I was 12, 13 years old when I first bet, and my finances started going like that. Then I get a win, it lift up a bit, and then it go down, and then I get a win, and it lifts up a bit. And I was able to see the bigger picture. Then I was like, it's just constantly going down. If I do get a win, it just puts a little tiny boost in it, and then it just goes down again. Any winnings were just used for ammunition to go back again. It was ammunition to go and gamble again. I never did anything with the winnings. The odd time I did actually win was few and far between, but it was just ammunition to go back again. And like I say, my life was just spiraling out of control at this point. But I was still from the outside in functioning. But at this point, I was working in Lark Lane in Liverpool, and I'd finish up in the restaurant where I worked like 11 o'clock, midnight sometimes, go over to the bar across the street where my friends worked, have a few drinks with them. I'd drive home drunk, get changed, drive back to Lark Lane. They'd finish in the bar. I'd take them into Liverpool city centre, and we'd go and have a night out. And I was drink driving 3 times a week, 4 times a week. And I always remember my sister saying to me, why, please stop it. Stop doing the drink driving. I don't want to have to put my baby brother in a coffin. And I said to her, I get away with it. Why wouldn't I do it? I felt invincible. I always said to her, if anything ever happens, I'll stop. And then in 2012, so I was 25, I actually had a massive car crash. I drunk drove home. There was 6 of us in the car originally. Luckily, I dropped one person off just outside the city centre, so there was 5 people in the car. And my mum was away on holiday, and we were going back to my mum's house. And there's a rather steep hill on a bit of a bend just literally 30 seconds away from my mum's front door. And I have no memory of the actual incident, but I've come down this hill and it's curving down to the right. My back left tire has clipped the curb, but I've been going that fast. That back left tire clipping the curb was enough to flip the car over onto the left, carry on going down the hill. So at this point, the car is scraping down, like on the left door, basically. It's scraping down the hill. It's hit a curb at the bottom, like halfway down the hill. It's flipped over onto the roof, and then it slid down an embankment and ironically finished in the back of a pub, ended up smashing into the back of a pub. And like, that was sort of the first time that it all came out on top. That was the first time, like, everyone could see, wow, it's like, like everyone can see into this world that I've been hiding the whole time. I'm actually, like, I am, like, I'm not fully functioning. I'm not a functioning adult. I'm not as normal as people appear. Like, I've got this secret life that I'm living. And it was really bad. The five of us in the car, I came to the next morning, and my sister's standing over me in my hospital bed, and there's a policeman standing at the bottom of my bed. And I've got no memory of the previous night, and I'm all dazed. And first thing I said to my sister, what's happened? Why is there a policeman at the bottom of my bed? And my sister said, like, shh, you're okay, but you were in a car crash last night. And it instantly just come back to me. I remember being out on a night out and then driving drunk. My heart just, and my first question I said to my sister, I was like, how is everyone? How's everyone else who was in the car with me? And she said, like, there's problems, but you're the worst one. Like, everyone's sort of okay now. There's no like life or death stuff. You're the worst one. And that was a bit of a relief to sort of hear that I hadn't hurt anyone more than myself. But I actually got brain damage in 2 parts of my brain from it. They had to have like an emergency operation on my head while I was unconscious. And the 2 parts, I always say this, the 2 parts of my brain that got damaged, one of the parts was my memory part. And the irony is, I can't remember what the other part was, the brain damage. But it was serious stuff. Like, I had to go to a brain clinic for months afterwards and do like exercises where I'd get asked the question, like, name as many animals as you can that you'd see in the zoo. And then I'd get asked other questions, and then they'd say, like, go back to that first question. Name all those animals that you named 4 questions ago. And it was pretty bad for a few months. Like, my family say I was a different person for like 4 weeks, 5 weeks after the crash. And I stayed off work and everything, stayed home for a while till I sort of rehabilitated. So at age 28, or 29, I moved over to Sydney. Age 28, 2 of my friends were going traveling around Southeast Asia, and they were going to finish off in Sydney, Australia. And 2 weeks before they were going, I actually won a large amount in a New Brighton casino. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to go traveling. I was like, I'm going to use this money to go traveling. So it was one of the few times I left the casino with money. I remember coming back home. It was 7 o'clock in the morning. My mum's just getting up for work, and I've just pulled out this wad of cash and been like, look at what I've won, expecting her to be like over the moon. And she was just like, you've gambled again. And I was like, yeah, but like, look at all the money I've won. And she's just like, you've gambled again. You said you were going to stop, and you're still doing it. Like, you can't stop. And that was another like eye opener for me, where I was like I've always thought, once I win all that money, once I can buy my mum a summer house in Australia, once I can buy all the fast cars, everyone will forgive me. But at that moment in time, my mum was more disappointed that I'd gambled than thrilled with the money I'd won. And I was like,
Yeah, so you've lost the approval then, haven't you?
exactly,
Like,
the
fan
trust.
silence, yeah.
I've destroyed the trust again. I've done all the emotional damage despite the financial gain. But nonetheless, I was like, right, give the money to my mum. I was like, you hold on to this. I'm going traveling in 2 weeks. And then in that 2-week period, I was able to get access to 50% of that money, not through my mum, but through a friend that I mentioned earlier that had money saved. I was able to actually get 50% of that money from him and gamble with it, and lost it all. Luckily, it was only 50% of that winnings. If it was 100%, I would have took all 100% and I would have lost it all.
Yeah.
But I'd lost 50% of it, so I had to call my mum and say, listen, mum, I need £5,000 of that money. I've got to go and give it to someone. I've just lost it. I remember pulling up outside of work. Like I say, my mum was never one for discipline, never got angry with me, was always like loving towards me. I pulled up outside the work, and she just threw this envelope in the car window at me and stormed off. And I was like, oh shit, I've really upset it again here.
Yeah.
Was able to give that money back to the person. Luckily, like I say, I only had access to 50% of it. So my mum still had the other 50%. So I was still able to go traveling with that money. And I remember the first day of traveling, a friend that I went with pulled me to one side and he said to me, "I've got one rule for you while we're traveling." And I'm like, "Yeah, go on. What is it?" And he went, "No gambling." He's like, "I do not want you. If you gamble, I know you'll have to go home. So please don't gamble." And you know what? We went round Vietnam, Cambodia, Bali, the little Gili Islands, and then to Australia. And I didn't gamble for those 2 months that we were traveling. Like, I think I was just having so much fun. I was just like, wow, I was made for this, like the traveling lifestyle. I love it. And it never crossed my mind to gamble. Like the 2 months, I didn't even think about a bet. Once I got to Sydney, I discovered the casino in Sydney, and within a few days, I'd managed to lose the last of my money.
Yeah.
I called my family. I was able to get bailed out and get some money sent over to still sort of do the last 8 days or 9 days that I had left of my trip. I looked up at the grey skies in Liverpool and I was like, "I'll come to Sydney. I'll move to Australia." So I knew I was going over there. So I was like, right, I need to get myself together. I need to get my act together. So I actually started seeing a gambling counsellor 7 months before I was due to move over there in May. And it was the longest I'd ever gone without gambling. I was actually 7 months clean when I got over there. I was very upfront with Julie at the time. I told her what the go was, where I was up to, how I'm trying to get on top of it. And she was very supportive of me. She actually found the local Gamblers Anonymous meetings for me to attend when I got there. And I was really shocked at that. I was like, wow, like that's shit. I need to hold on to this girl. Like she's really, really good for me. She's like really supportive in that. And for the first maybe 8 months, 9 months I was there, I didn't gamble. Like it was like this new lease of life. They say in Gamblers Anonymous, you can't run away from your problems. You can't geographically escape. You can't switch country. And I did that and stopped gambling. And I was sort of like, I think you can do this actually. Like I've got no urge or nothing to go to the casino. I hadn't gambled for like the 8 months, 9 months that I was there. I was getting paid every week into my bank account. I had a savings account. I had money in a savings account. No, what are they called? No debt collectors were chasing me. It was like this new lease of life. So I actually had a nice credit score. Like I built a credit score up over there because the one in England was exhausted from the loans and the credit cards. And I just sort of let them ride into CCJ. So my credit rating here was destroyed. But over there, I had this new lease of life.
Yeah.
So I moved over there May 2016. And until June, July 2017, I was completely away from a bet. And it was good. Just that peace of mind was amazing, not worrying about things. In June, July 2017, I discovered Bitcoin. And I actually found this I can't remember what it was called now, but basically it was leverage trading. So for anyone who doesn't know what leverage trading is, basically it multiplies your winnings, but it also multiplies your losses. So I'm not actually invested in Bitcoin. I'm not buying a Bitcoin, if you like. I'm betting Bitcoin's going to go up, or I'm shorting and betting Bitcoin's going to go down. So it was basically multiplied by 33. So for every 3% Bitcoin went up, I got 99% of my money. I doubled my money. If it went down 3% and I got to, like, I lost the equivalent to my investment, say I put £1,000 in and it would go down 3%, I'd then lose that £1,000. It's not like an investment where it would just go down and it'd come back again. Once it went to zero, that £1,000 was gone. They could take my money and it was gone. However, we spoke about it at the very start of this. The beginner's luck hit. The very first day I did Bitcoin, I made like £2,000. And I was just like, this is it. This is what I was made for. I stupidly spent all my time on the roulette wheel and doing horses and doing football. This is what I was supposed to be doing. Cryptocurrency. This is what I'm made for. So all them thoughts are going through my head. All that euphoria. This is me. I finally found my calling. So this was a Friday when I won that money. We were going for a hike around what's called the Blue Mountains. It's a very scenic place in Sydney. It's basically big mountains, big hikes. So as you can imagine, the phone signal isn't very good in certain parts of that. And as I've woke up that morning, the Saturday morning, the money has started to go down. My winnings have started to disappear. As I'm on that hike, I'm looking and like all my money is gone. The money that I originally put in is gone at this point. Bitcoin, it's not even nosedive. It's maybe gone down 5%, which is nothing. But Bitcoin, it can swing 10% in an hour. Gone down like 5%, and I've started to lose everything. I've emptied my savings account in, put my savings account in there. I actually had a credit card that had zero that hadn't like, it was fully, it wasn't maxed out, if you like. I'd never used it. I just had it to build my credit rating up. That credit card went straight in. So this is all day one of doing Bitcoin, and just the switch in my head just flicked. I hadn't gambled for like 18 months, and then I was just right back. I remember going around the Blue Mountains, like trying to get a phone signal, trying to put this money on, like reaching up in the air to get the phone as high as I can. And it was just incredible how it only took one thing to just completely flick me straight back into that mode. Used all the money I had saved up, maxed out the credit card. A few days later, because like I say, my credit rating was so good over there, I was actually able to get a $25,000 loan from my bank straight into Bitcoin. It lasted me longer than most of the loans had previous. I was playing for a few weeks, even a few months maybe, of just riding the roller coaster up and down, until September 2017. It was all gone. I'd gone from I think I put like $500 in and won £2,000 on that first day, to I'd now lost all my money. I'd used all of my savings. I'd maxed out a credit card, and I just took a loan out. All of this behind Julie's back. So again, it was just straight back to those horrible feelings of isolation, hiding away from everyone, living this secret life that nobody knows about. And it was just like, it's incredible how quick I was just straight back into that mode. Ended up manipulating Julie into letting me use some of her credit card money. And then after I lost that, I had nowhere to turn to, and I had to come clean to Julie and tell her what had happened.
Yeah.
After many weeks of like uncertainty around my relationship, like I'd moved to Sydney just to be with this girl, like whether I was even going to stay in Sydney or was I going to move back home. Julie was able to forgive me. The one stipulation was she now controls all the money. She now controls all the finances. So a video I did last week was about roadblocks, putting roadblocks in place. That's the number one roadblock for me. I say for the first 90 days, if you're trying to stop gambling, hand over control of your finances to someone else. Just cut off access.
Yeah. Very well.
Further down the line, then you start to address the issues as to why you gamble, like how I've now discovered the euphoria of that win when I was young with my family and us all being together. Like I was chasing that for 20 years. All that work you do sort of over time, but for the first 90 days, it's just about starting, cutting off access, making it as hard as possible for you to put a bet on, basically putting as many roadblocks in the way as you can. And it worked. Again, for 18 months, I didn't gamble. Julie had control of everything. I still had a bank card and could still like buy things with my bank card, but knowing she could see everything I was spending money on was enough fear for me to not gamble, not bet. My first daughter was born when I was 32. At that point, my life got a lot more busy, a lot more crazy. So I stopped going to my Gamblers Anonymous meetings, and complacency started to creep in. And again, Bitcoin was taking off again. It was 2020. It was just before COVID struck, and Bitcoin was sailing off again into the sunset. And I was able to manipulate Julie into saying, like, listen, it's different now. Let's put money in Bitcoin. I promise I've got control of it. Look, I haven't gambled for 18 months. I know what I'm doing. Just give me the money and we'll become millionaires from Bitcoin. Again, that lasted for about 3 weeks of me doing it sensibly. And then same as every other time, it gets out of control. It just, like, I'm doing trades that I shouldn't be doing. I found a way to leverage trade again, but this time it was a multiply of 100. So if Bitcoin went up 1%, I doubled my money. If it went down 1%, I lost everything. For those of you that aren't familiar with cryptocurrency, a 1% swing can happen in 2 minutes. Like, I could literally lose everything in 2 minutes. That's how risky it was. That's how much of a risk I was taking. That's how much thrill and excitement I needed. It was all or nothing. I've always been all or nothing thinking type of thing. But again, exact same disastrous consequences and a massive low point for me. Again, I haven't told many people about this. I convinced my wife that I know what I'm doing. Bitcoin is about to skyrocket. Let's get some money in there. Let's get a loan out. And bless her, just having trust in me and believing the lies and deceit I was coming out with, she let me take out a loan. This time it was $35,000, and I took out this loan, put it into Bitcoin. At this point, my wife is now pregnant with our second child. So my first daughter is about 1 year old, maybe 12 months, 14 months old. And she's now a few months pregnant with our second child. I've took this loan. I've just gone straight into overdrive, straight into leverage trading, just trying to win millions straight away. Lost it all. I'm just like, I cannot do this. I cannot tell my 5-month pregnant wife that I've just lost all this money. Like I'm petrified of what it'll do to the baby, the stress that I'm going to put on it. So my addicted, manipulative brain reaches out to my family back home. So I'm over in Australia at this point. All my family is still back in Liverpool. I reach out to my family back home and I just explain the situation. And I'm like, I cannot do this. So my wife, I cannot tell her. I need you all to help me. I need you to get me out of this mess. Once my wife gives birth to my second child, then I'll tell her. I'll come clean. I'll tell her everything. So my family are able to get the money together, get it over to me. I pay off the loan in full. A screenshot that the loan is paid off in full, send it back to my family. Here's the proof. Look, it's all done. Right, for 5 months, I'm just going to get my head down. And then once my second baby comes, I'll tell Julie what's going on. The day after I've paid off that loan, I call the loan company up and I say, I'm so sorry. I've actually made a mistake. I was only supposed to make a 1 week payment. It's like the payment for this week. I've accidentally paid the full loan off. Can you give me the loan back? They have given me the full loan back again. So at this point, I'm a loose cannon. I'm a headless chicken at this point. I've got all this money. No one knows about it but me. No one, like, I'm so deep now. Julie doesn't even know I've lost the first loan. My family know I've covered the first loan. My family don't know I've now took the loan out again. The money that they've got me, I'm now using it again. And it's just, at this point, the bets are just, it's desperation. I'm just desperate to get myself out of this mess because I'm like, it's never me thinking, right, fuck my family, fuck what my mum thinks, I'm going to go and do this. It's never that. It's always, I know what I'm doing. I know I can double, treble, quadruple this money, and then I can put all the money back and I can fix everything. I'll buy everyone's forgiveness. That was what my addicted brain used to tell me. Like, I'd always be convinced that I'm going to win, and then I'll put everything back. And then the final nail in the coffin, the final night, I remember it well. It was a Friday night. I've woke up at 2 a.m. and I can't sleep. And I go downstairs and I'm just looking at the Bitcoin charts. And I've started playing around. I've started leverage trading. And I almost had it all back. Like I'm 6 figures deep at this point. And I remember I was maybe £3,000 or £4,000, $3,000 or $4,000, sorry, Australian dollars short of getting everything back. And I remember sitting there, it's about 4 o'clock in the morning at this point, and I remember saying to myself, wow, you've nearly got all this back. Once you've got it all back, you can fix everything. You can pay it all back. And there was a voice in the back of my head that just went, you won't stop. And I just buried that voice. I was just like, nah, I didn't listen to that voice. But I remember it was my own voice saying to me, you won't stop. I just ignored it. I was like, I know what I'm doing. So that was the Friday night, Saturday morning, 4 a.m. By the Monday, I'd lost it all. I'd like completely got just, yeah. I was just, again, just a new rock bottom. Like it was the umpteenth rock bottom that I'd hit in my life. And I was just like, how do I do this? So the lowest ever moment was me sitting in my kitchen. I remember sitting at the table in my kitchen. My wife is across the kitchen, and I was actually, take you back a few hours, I was actually at a Gamblers Anonymous meeting, and I came clean and told all them what happened. And it was an evening meeting. It was about 8 p.m. So it was like 9:30, 10 p.m. by the time I was getting home. And I said to all the boys, and they were all like, you need to tell your wife, you need to like come clean about it. And I said to them, I went, all right, I'll do everyone a deal now. If I get home and she's awake, I'll tell her. If she's asleep, I'll leave it till whenever. As I've pulled off, all the lights are off. And I'm like, yeah, I don't have to tell her. I can survive for another day. Like it doesn't make a difference. It doesn't make a difference to the financial mess that I've created, to the emotional damage I've done, to the trust I've broken time and time again. But just, I've got one more day of not having to tell her. I've got one more day of living this lie where everything's okay. Even though I know in my head's just, I'm on the verge of a mental breakdown at this point. As I go into the house, the kitchen light's on in the back and my heart just sinks. I'm like, she's in the kitchen in the back. So I sat down at the table. I told her she's pregnant with my second child. She just dropped to the floor crying. I've got up from the table to go and try and help her, try and pick her up. And she's just screamed at me to leave her alone. Don't touch her. And it was just like I'm getting a lump in my throat now, just reliving the moment. It was I can't describe it. It was just the lowest of lows. I was like, this is the new rock bottom now. Like I I'd had various moments in my life where I'd thought about suicide. Just it had got that bad. It had got that so secretive and so deep. Nobody else knew about it. And before I actually told her that night, I remember a few days previous, I just thought, I can just go to my old apartment block where we used to live. I still had the key for it. I can get to the roof there. I can message my family, tell them I love them, and I can just jump up and just end it all. Luckily, I had the thought of my 2 daughters growing up without a dad in their life. And that was enough for me to just, that was enough for me to just eradicate that thought there. And then I was like, I'd pictured the whole thing. I was like, I was going to take a 10-pack of cider up there with me. I was unsure if I was going to video my family so they could actually see me doing it, or I was just going to send them a video note, telling them how much I loved them. But as soon as that thought came into my head, I was like, imagining my 2 daughters growing up without a dad. I was just like, no, I'm not taking the coward's way out. I'm facing up to it. And then that's what started the process of me going to the Gamblers Anonymous and eventually telling my wife. My suitcase was packed for me the next day when I arrived home. My wife told me, you need to go to rehab. It's this. If you want, my wife said, if you want to keep me and my unborn daughter and my born daughter in my life, I need to go to rehab to get myself better. Was completely on board with it, was more than happy to go. I remember in there, while I was in there, like some of the stuff I just didn't understand. It was like similar to what they say on an airplane where you got to put your mask on before helping others. There, it's like, if you don't love yourself, you're not going to be able to love your children. And I was like, what's this bullshit? I don't care about myself. I'm here for my kids. I want to get better for my kids. I didn't understand that. I didn't understand the therapist saying that to me at the time. As time went on in there, a guy who was in the rehab center 3 years previous and had been clean for 3 years, he'd come back in to do a talk. And I remember this vividly, where I was sitting in the room and I was hanging on his every word. And he said to us all, but I felt like he was talking directly to me. He said, there's 3 types of people in here in this rehab center right now. There's people who are here to stay out of jail. There's people who are here to please someone else. Basically the situation I was in. I was there to keep my wife in my life. And there's people who are here who genuinely want to get sober. I thought that was me. I thought I genuinely wanted to get better. I genuinely wanted to get on top of this addiction. The stuff I learned in rehab was immense. I learned so much about myself, about how addiction works, about why I was addicted. However, as soon as I remember the first day coming back home it was an in-hab rehab center. I was away from my family for 3 weeks. I remember the first day I came back, like my 1-year-old daughter, I remember her looking at me and like she was looking at me like she recognized me, but she didn't know who I was. And that proper killed me. I was like, this is like the first ever time I'd been away from her for 3 weeks. She was only a year old. And she looked at me like she knew who I was, but she sort of didn't. She sort of like recognized me and knew I was someone. And I was just like, I never, ever want to do that to my children again. I never want my daughters to not know who their dad is again. But literally 10 minutes later, my mother-in-law had a list of jobs for me as long as my arm. It's like, you've been away 3 weeks. This needs doing, that needs doing, that needs doing. And it was just, I didn't have time. Everything I'd learned in rehab, I didn't have time to put that into practice. I didn't have the time to put that into my life. As you can imagine, that a busy, stressful life with a wife that was ready to pop and a 1-year-old and working full time. And all the stuff I learned just sort of went on the back burner. It never quite got put into my life. It just sort of, it was there in the back of my head. I thought that was good enough. I thought, I know all that stuff now. I don't need to be practicing it on a daily basis, like the exercises I need to do and all that. It's okay. As long as I'm aware of it, that's good enough. 6 months later, I found myself in the same situation again. I found myself manipulating my wife into allowing me to do Bitcoin. The exact same thing happened, got out of control, did more financial damage, more trust damage, more damage everywhere. And that was it. That was like, you know what? Luckily, the financial damage was pretty limited, but the emotional damage and the trust issues, just that was like my new rock bottom. And I was just, everything I learned in rehab, I now need to do on a daily basis. I now need to start learning to love myself. I always go back to that thing the guy told me. There's 3 types of people who are here. And I was like, I wasn't there to genuinely get sober. I was there to keep my family in my life. I genuinely want to get sober now. And that has been the biggest game changer for me. That's why I've been able to turn my life around these last 3 years. I finally realized I want to get better for myself. I can't live this stressful life anymore. I can't live this secretive life that no one knows about. And I've got all this stress inside of me. I've got all these secrets inside of me. The peace of mind of just knowing my wife can pick up my phone. She's not going to find anything that I've got hidden. I don't have to beat the mailman to the letterbox. I don't have to keep my wife out of my email accounts. The fact that everything is out on the table is just, that feeling is just priceless to me. Like that is what's going to keep me away from ever going back to a bet. Just this peace of mind that I've had these last few years is just priceless. It's the best part of recovery for me. Like the debts have slowly been getting paid off. And that's obviously what everyone thinks about recovery. They think, like, I'll have money. That's not the best part of it. The best part of it is just people trusting you again. My wife trusting me, like getting my wife's trust, my family being proud of me. My mum tells me every day how proud of me she is. And it puts a lump in my throat every day. Stuff like that is priceless. And doing all the work every day, like realizing my people-pleasing tendencies. Like I'd say yes to someone when I want to say no because of my people please. I'd say yes, and then I'd secretly resent myself. To escape that resentment, I'd then go and gamble. Just realizing little things like that just make the world of difference, because now I realize that happening in motion, and I'm able to say no. I'm able to have uncomfortable conversations with people. It's made me the person I always should have been.
What made you want to help people then? What's kind of brought about the stuff that you've been doing on YouTube? And
like I say now, just this. The whole time I was gambling, I was convinced it was the money. It wasn't. It was because I wasn't able to deal with life on life's terms, but I can now. You know, that first ever Gamblers Anonymous meeting I went to, there was a guy in there that said, like, I'm 7 years without a bet. And right in that moment, I just went, I wish I had those 7 years. Now I understand those 7 years wouldn't help me. I need my own recovery journey. Everybody needs their own recovery journey. These last 3 years that I've done, nobody's got an identical story to that. Everyone's got their own story. Everyone's got their own reason they gamble, their own reason they continue to gamble, and their own reason that they need to stop gambling. Like, so I say I had to go through 20 years of pain and misery and struggling to get here. I needed to hit those rock bottoms in order to turn around. However, I feel there's always, I know if I go back to gambling, there's a new rock bottom waiting for me, 100%. I can smash through that previous rock bottom and I can find another one. So what I'm trying to do is help people stop at the rock bottom that they're at now. Instead of doing what I did and just smashing through floor after floor after floor after rock bottom and taking 20 years to get on top of it. Not everyone's as lucky as me. Some people don't get out of it after 20 years. Some people deal with it their whole lives. If I can help someone stop just a little bit earlier than what they'd stop in their own, or even if they wouldn't be able to stop, but I help them stop, just that feeling of passing on what I've learned. Like in Japan, there's something called ikigai, and it's like 4 things. It's like something that the world needs, something that you're good at, something that you're passionate about, something that you can like make your everyday life. This is my ikigai. I always say I'm good at it because I was such a fuck up. I fucked up so bad in every single way that I've got the experience of getting over every single one of them. No matter what story you tell me, I've done something similar. I can help guide you through it. I'm so, like, gambling was the only thing I was ever passionate about. Now recovery is the thing I'm passionate about. I just love it. I love my own recovery, and I just love hearing other people's stories. Like, I still do free support groups every week. I still log on to free Zoom meetings every week of support groups, and that's not because I'm on the edge of my seat about to go and gamble. If I don't go to that support group, I go to that support group because I've built up like a network of friends there. I like hearing about their stories. I like sharing what's gone on for me, what struggles I've had this week and how I've dealt with them. There's no such thing as a bad meeting when I get on these support groups. Like, I can't lose. If I hear someone who's been at it this week and they're really struggling, like they've just gambled this week, I can hear the pain in their voice and the struggle that they're going through. And that reminds me what's out there waiting for me if I go back to it. Or I'll get someone who's 20 years clean and they tell me like, oh, I took my daughters to the football this week and it was just amazing. And I'm like, that's inspiration for me. I can do that. I can be the dad that I always wanted to be to my daughters because I'm not tied up in this addiction anymore. My head isn't somewhere else. I love the life I've now got, and I want to help people get that life themselves. I don't want this addiction to take away anyone else's life like it took away mine for 20 years.
Well, I think what's really important is taking on a responsibility. You know, like now you're helping people, you've got a responsibility to not fuck up. Do you know what I mean? Because
Yeah. Accountability.
you got to practice. You got to practice what you preach.
100%.
So I think by helping others, you're helping yourself, and then it's kind of it's gonna
It's
it's
another
quite dominant.
layer. Yeah, it's another layer of security for me that, yeah, I'm not only accountable to myself, I'm not only accountable to my wife and my daughters, I'm accountable to these people I'm trying to help. I've got to set the example that I've got to practice what I preach. You said it there. It's like a new level of
Of course, yeah. Yeah, so you've got to do it, and then there's another Japanese concept which I like called Kaizen, which is the car industry. So every day they try and improve 1%. So I think now you're on this journey, you can keep on improving, like make your videos better, uh, practice teaching people, talking to people, and you're on the right side of it. And it's much more fulfilling to help people anyway than win money.
Yeah,
Yeah,
100%. Like half of the stuff that I get out of recovery, it's nothing to do with money. It's like that peace of mind, that knowing that my wife trusts me. I can't put a price on that. It's nothing to do with money. It's just like those human emotions are just above all else. I love it. I do.
I mean, people have known this for our history. All the philosophers, no one ever. I had a great quote from Mike Tyson who said, If you think having a lot of money is gonna make your life better, then you've never had a lot of money." I think it's just a brilliant quote because he's been on top of hundreds of millions, and it's like it still doesn't make anything better because life doesn't care how much money you've got.
Yeah.
Your impact on other people essentially, which is what makes you.
I was expecting a different quote there from Mike Tyson, the one where it's something like everyone's I can't remember. Everyone's a good boxer until they get hit in the face or something like that. Everyone's got a mouth. They get punched in the face. I thought that was the one you were going to go with. But
Well, I like it because it's like, I mean, there's loads of people who've said that they've had loads of money and it doesn't bring any happiness. It just brings more problems. So even the end goal of that.
yeah, what keeps coming to mind now is Matthew Perry, who, rest in peace, who we just lost. He's there's many videos of him saying, like, similar to what Jim Carrey says, I want everyone to achieve everything they've ever wanted to get, and then they realize that's not what they want. Like, to realize it's back to this destination addiction again. It's not about the end goal. It's the journey.
Exactly.
So they say in Gamblers Anonymous, one day at a time. And that was pretty overwhelming for me. I was like, for the rest of my life, one day at a time, I can't gamble. Like, that overwhelms me. I've changed it, and I'm like, working on myself, improving myself is a project that I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life. And I'm completely okay with that. Like you said before, James Clear, Atomic Habits, get 1% better every day, similar to what you've just said.
Yeah.
It doesn't even need to be 1%. 0.1% is good enough. If I'm 35% better at the end of this year, that is a massive improvement. That's good enough for me. So that's what I say now. My goal is to just learn the struggles, learn my issues, get a little bit better at dealing with them. Instead of trying to life, I always thought life was about taking away the struggle. Now I'm in recovery. I've realized you can't take away. So there's going to be difficult moments in life. There's going to be struggles in life. I've learned how to deal with them. I've learned how to be okay accepting those struggles and how to overcome them. When I was gambling, it was always just, I'm going to win all this money and I'll never have any problems in my life ever because I can just throw money at any problems I have. Whereas now I've accepted there's going to be problems, there's going to be struggles, there's going to be issues. I'm able to hit them issues, them struggles head on and tackle them head on. And I've got the tools in my toolbox to be able to overcome them. That's what recovery has given me.
I think one last thing to mention is you said about like not keeping it to yourself and talking about it. Like it is true when you like I've had problems before and you talk about it. The relief that you feel when you've let it out, and it's the secret that kills you inside a lot of the time. I think that's going to help a lot of people if you just admit to stuff.
Definitely. Anyone like that. My advice for anyone new in the support groups, anyone listening today who's struggling with addiction is admitting I cannot control my gambling was the first step. When I finally realized if I have a small bet today, whether it's a day, a week, a month, a year later, it will get out of control again. I can't do that first bet. So admitting you cannot control whatever has got a grip of you, that is the first step. Coming clean, sharing about it, speaking to your loved ones. Maybe not. Some people would be more comfortable sharing to their loved ones. Some people would be more comfortable sharing in a support group to a room full of strangers. Whichever one, share with somebody, find somebody you can confide in and come clean and get that off your shoulders. seeking professional help was very important for me. I saw a psychotherapist and a gambling counselor simultaneously. They helped me understand why I gambled, what was going on in my head as I was gambling, and any like childhood trauma or anything like that. Support groups, being with your peers, sharing your problems, listening to their problems, helping them. Just the opposite to addiction is connection, just connecting with people. And then all four of those points fall into one thing where I say, build up your support network, build up your recovery community. I've got people I'll speak to on a daily basis. I've got people I'll speak to on a weekly basis from all over the world, just to check in, just to check how they're going and just to let them know what's going on with me. It's not because I'm on the edge of my seat gambling if I don't, but just connecting with people, just it keeps me on the straight and narrow. Just like you've just said, sharing with people what's going on is just, it's a release. It's a weight off your shoulders. So those 5 points for me are how you get started on your recovery journey.
So how can people find you then? What's your plan now?
So my YouTube channel is just starting out now. Addicted Recovery, no space in between it. We've got a couple of episodes. I think we're up to episode 6 at the minute. Every week, minimum 1 video a week. Every week I'm trying to get an upload of a new episode. I've committed to that for the next 12 months. So there's plenty of time for everyone to get on board and get involved with me and follow along. And I'm trying to be as interactive as I can. I want people to comment. I want people to get in touch with me and reach out to me. And like I keep saying, connection is the way forward. I want to connect with people on this channel. So if you can get onto my channel, watch some of my videos, even subscribe, I'm going to be there for a long time. This is the beginning of something special for me.
Well, I mean, like, just thank you for coming on today. And I think it's quite brave to talk about what you've done. And it's a good point to like share with your friends what you've been through, because like they won't think any less of you. Like you will think they think less of you, but when they listen to it, I think they just feel like they want you to get over it and like.
Yeah, they want what's best for you, definitely.
Yeah, if they're real friends, they'll want what's best for you, and you can tell them anything. So get it out there. But I'll put down his YouTube video in the comments, his channel, and we'll share this. So yeah, thanks, Danny. Is there anything you want to leave us with before we end there?
Just a massive thank you to you for reaching out. This is the first ever time I've done anything like this. You can't see it on camera, but I've been trembling like anything underneath. My feet have been ticking the floor. But yeah, just a massive thank you for giving me this opportunity to get on your channel and hopefully just spreading my message a little bit further.
Yeah, I mean, just thanks for being so brave, because it like this is the deepest I've gone on a podcast, and it's hard to do, but it's worthwhile if it helps someone. So I'll end it there. So thanks, Danny.
Thanks again, Ant.
Take care.